Now we will see the thread class and runnable interface. Here we can create a thread either by means of a class, a thread class, or by means of an interface runnable. So Java supports multi-threading concept, and we can have more than we can parallelly run more than one thread. How we are going to be create a thread in the sense you can create a thread by means of a thread class or runnable interface. And we're having inside thread class we're having certain methods, predefined methods. Get name, there we can this get name is a method which is used to get a thread's name, and the priority get priority is a method which is used to know the priority of that particular currently running thread. And is align is a method which determine if a thread is still running or not. So whenever a thread is created from the main thread, the child thread has to terminate after completion of its task and hand over the resources back to its parent or main thread. So if you want to know the thread is still running or not, we can use this is alive method. And one more method, join method. Here if you want to wait for a thread to terminate, we use this join method. So the scenario here, the parent has to run, the parent has to the parent is used to create a child thread. The child thread has to terminate only after completion of its task, assigned task, and simply it hand over all the resources back to its parent thread. And the scenario here it is the child thread has to terminate first and the later the main thread. So the main thread has to wait until the child thread has to terminate or finish its task. And next here we are having a method run method, which is entry point for the thread, and sleep method is used to suspend a thread for a certain period of time. And the start method is a method where which is used to call a run method. So the run method is a method which is used to start the execution of the thread, the task assigned or the statements there inside the thread. Next is the main thread. The main thread is a thread which is in generally the main thread. This thread is used to run all the resources assigned to this. Whenever Java program starts up, once the thread begins running immediately, this is usually the main thread because it is the one that is executed when a program begins. This is the main thread or the default thread. The main thread is important for two reasons. It is a thread from which the other child threads will be created. So whenever you want to create one more thread, we require the main thread. The second one is often it must be the last thread to finish the execution. So whatever the thread generated from the main thread and assign a task to each and every thread, those child thread has to finish and hand over back all the resources to the main thread. And this is the main thread which is going to be run or terminate or finish its execution at the end. So having a thread representations usually done by means of a current thread. The current thread is a method which is used to give the status of the currently running thread, and we'll have a simple program for this. And here a simple current thread demo is a class. There you can have a main thread, define public static void main, and here created a thread T, and we are just invoking current thread information method which is defined inside thread class, and it simply returns the value of returns some properties of the current thread, like what is the name of a thread and what is the priority of thread and what is the group of the particular thread belongs. The three things will be maintained and written by this current thread, and you can easily get that information by means of current thread by just showing information on the screen by using println statement. And if you want to change the name of a thread which is represented in red color, my thread like this, if you want to change the name, we use t.setName, a method. So there you are assigning a new name to the existing thread. And see the second println statement there, it simply throws shows the information like my thread and followed by 5 comma main. So here 5 is the priority of the thread and main is the group of the thread it belongs. And inside try block, just we're having a simple loop and iterating for 5 to 1 and showing the values on the screen, and each and every iteration it suspended 1000 milliseconds. But here you are just having only one thread, so the system waits for a 1000 milliseconds of time, suspended 1000 milliseconds of time, and continue the same loop. And if something goes wrong in between the try block, it simply raise an exception, interrupted exception, and you'll just catch the exception by means, and you can show certain information like main thread interrupted. This is a simple example, will demonstrate what is the current thread and how you can alter the name of a thread and all. And having one more method, the sleep method, which is used to suspend certain period of time. Here usually you are representing the value in milliseconds. And set name and get name, these two are the methods which are used to set the thread name and get the name of a thread. Next is you can create a thread either by means of a thread class or by means of a runnable interface. So most general sense, create a thread by instantiating an object of type thread. Java defines the two ways, either you are using runnable interface or a thread class. And we'll see the first method, implementing a thread or creating a thread by means of a runnable interface. It is the simplest method, simplest procedure to create a thread using runnable interface. And here we implement a runnable. A class need only implement a single method called run. So we need to define a public void run method. This run method define the code that constitutes the new thread. Means whatever the code you are supposed to run or supposed to assign to that particular thread will be there inside the run method, and this run method will run for us. The only difference is that the run establishes the entire entry point for another concurrent thread of execution within your program. The thread will end when run returns. So this is the starting point and this is the ending point whenever you encounter a return statement. And whatever the statement there inside the run method, all are belonging to that particular thread and executes one by one continuously until it reaches to the return statement. And thread will have a simple syntax of having two names, two parameters, thread followed by runnable thread reference and string name. Here the runnable interface, runnable thread object instance of a class that implements a runnable interface. The name of the new thread is specified by the thread name. So whenever you invoke a method, start method, which is declared within the thread and having the syntax of void start, and the start executes a call to run method. So implicitly the start method will invoke the run method. We'll see a simple example. So here we are having a simple small program. The name of a class is new thread implements runnable and define a thread T, and you are having a constructor new thread, and there you define T equal to new thread. Here new thread is a thread and having a two parameters. The first one is runnable interface, the second one is the name of the thread, and just show the information on the screen. The child thread is the value of T, and here you are invoking T dot start. So you are starting the thread, so creating by means of new and running the thread by means of start method. So whenever you call T dot start, the system invokes automatically the run method. So here the task is assigned to the thread will be defined inside run method. So inside run, here a simple statements kept inside try block for executing certain for loop, iterating for 5 times, and every time it is showing some information on the screen, the child, the value of I, and the thread is suspending for certain amount of time, like here 500 milliseconds, and something happened at the time of sleep or rather any exception, simply catch the exception by means of a cache and showing the child it is interrupted and so on. If not, it simply terminates and finally you will get exiting child thread. So here you are having one constructor and one method, run method. And inside main method, the public static void main create a new thread. Here new thread is a class which is defined previously. So new thread is a class name. New give a space and thread is a thread name. Don't confuse the new thread. Here you are invoking a reference, calling the constructor, and by creating an instance, new thread. And inside a try block you are just invoking certain loop like I equal to 5 and iterating certain 5 more times, and you are just showing main method here, and thread is suspending 1000 milliseconds. So here it is a main method, main thread, and previously it is a newly created thread method which is running inside run. So main thread is running here within the try block for I equal to 5 to 1. Here the child is running for I equal to 5 to 1. Here thread is suspending 500 milliseconds. Here main thread is suspending 1000 milliseconds. Right? So at the end you are having the message main thread is exiting from the program. So on compilation of this program, and after compilation and run the application, we will see the values like this. First it starts the main thread, start the child thread. After invoking the main thread, the thread will have the name demo thread, and its priority 5, and the value is, group is main. And it start the main thread and child thread and so on continuously for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 of a child and main thread. And the child is exiting from the program, and main thread is, if any leftover iterations there, it simply finish, and finally the main thread will exit. So what the output you are getting, it will be not same like this. It may be varies based on the compilers and based on the speed of the system. Here the two threads, one is main thread and another one is the child thread. These two are competing for the resources, and these are executing and suspending. Main is for 1000 milliseconds and child is for 500 milliseconds. So based on the output will varies on compilation and run based on the processor and based on the resources. This is a simple example of creating a thread by implementing runnable interface. Next one is one more example is added. Please go through this one and try to execute and see the output of this. And I'll see the next one is extending thread. How we are going to be extend, instead of implementing runnable interface, how we are going to be create a thread by using thread class. The same here, it extends a class must override the run method, which is the entry point for the new thread, and start begin execution of the new thread. So it simply invokes the run method, which is overridden by this thread class. It simply extends the thread class. Here a simple example which is already we come across. So instead of implements runnable, the first line, here you just added extends thread. See the difference? The first program, here in the first line you added implements runnable, and here you added extends thread. The remaining everything is same. Here created a new thread and with the name of demo thread, and here you are supplying a parameter to the super class by calling super and followed by the demo thread, so which is going to be added to the parent child thread, and you are just showing the child thread by using this and start the thread. Here you are invoking start thread directly, and the start is going to be invoke run method, and which is having the same iterations what we come across in previous application. And the main thread is the same. Here you are creating the main thread by invoking new followed by new thread. It creates a new thread by invoking new thread class. Inside new thread you are just invoking the thread by just calling the start method. And in the main thread the same iterations takes place from 5 to 1 and suspending each and every iteration 1000 milliseconds in the previously 500 milliseconds for child, and so on. And finally it is executing the main thread, and here it is executing the child thread. and see the output. Just copy and paste and compile and run the application and see the difference how it appears. So here we are having two approaches. Why Java has two ways to create a child thread and which approach is better. The thread class defines several methods that can be overridden by a derived class. So thread is a class, there you can have certain methods which already defined, and whenever you are extending the thread class we need to override the methods, of course, and these methods the only one that must be overridden is run. So whatever the remaining threads which you are having, we should not go for overriding those things, but only one method is required to override, that is the run method. Why? Because we need to add appropriate code for that particular thread. That is the entry point which we need to perform that particular thread. The thread has to perform certain task assigned to that. This is of course the same method requires when you implement runnable. But inside interfaces are abstract methods. We need to write our own definitions. So no need to go for overriding the existing things. We need to define from scratch by means of interfaces. So many Java programs feel that the classes should be extended only when they are being enhanced or modified in some way. But if you will not be overriding any of the threads other methods, it is probably best simply to implement runnable interface. So the thread will have certain information already there inside run method. Instead of overriding that existing, better go for using interfaces which is abstract methods, nothing there in there. We need to write our own definitions. So the best approach is instead of extending the threads, implement the runnable interfaces, and we will see the things later. Remaining part we will continue later.